We are looking at Form 2 Chemistry under the topic Structure and Bonding. What is a bond? Chemical bond is usually a mutual force. Force of attraction. It is a mutual force of attraction that develops when atoms of the same or different elements combine. That is what we call a bond. For example, if we have an element like magnesium, which is a metal, combining with oxygen, the compound formed is magnesium oxide, which is a solid since metallic oxides are solids at room temperature. We can balance the equation by writing 2 behind magnesium oxide and also 2 behind magnesium. The compound magnesium oxide is made up of 2 elements, that is magnesium and oxygen. There is a mutual force that exists between the 2 elements, that is magnesium and oxygen, and that mutual force is what we call a chemical bond. Let us look at types of chemical bonds. We have 4 major types. 1, we have an ionic bond. 2, we have a covalent bond. 3, we have a coordinate, also known as dative bond. An ionic bond is also known as electrovalent bond. Then lastly, we have a metallic bond. Those are the 4 types of chemical bonds that we have, among other bonds like the hydrogen bonding and so forth. So let us begin with the first one, which is an ionic bond. We have already said that an ionic bond is also known as an electrovalent bond, and this is a bond that occurs when there is complete transfer of electrons. We can call them of valence electrons, since under bonding we use valence electrons, from one atom to another. Remember, when metals react, they react by losing electrons, and non-metals react by gaining, and therefore when metals lose, we say they are transferring their electrons to non-metals, and therefore we can say this ionic bond, it simply exists between metals and non-metals. It exists between metals and non-metals. We are going back to look at how ionic bonds are formed in our next discussion. Another type of bond we have is a covalent bond. And what is a covalent bond? This is a bond formed when atoms of nonmetals combine. It is a bond formed when atoms of non-metals combine. Remember, non-metals react by gaining electrons, and therefore none of the atoms is willing to lose its electrons to another. So what happens is that the atoms end up sharing electrons. So in this case, we can therefore say this kind of bond is formed. It is formed when there is sharing of electrons. We are also going to find out how that happens. Let us go to the third one, which is a coordinate bond. A coordinate, also known as dative bond. This type of bond is a special type of covalent bonding, in that there is sharing of electrons, but the shared pair of electrons are only contributed by one of the elements that is forming the bond, and therefore we can say it is a covalent bond. It is a covalent bond in which all the shared electrons are donated by one of the combining species, We are going to see how a coordinate bond is formed and the compounds in which that particular bond exists. The last one is a metallic bond. And from the word metallic, it is very clear that this is a bond. It is a bond that holds. The metal atoms together. In our next discussion, we are going to find out how the four types of bonds are formed and some of the compounds where we have those bonds being formed and some of the characteristics of each and every type of bond that exists. Thank you for watching and welcome to this channel. And in case you are watching this channel for the first time, kindly take 1 second and click the subscribe button so that anytime we do a video like this, you will automatically be given a notification.